Good evening, doctors. Myself, Dr. Devesh Das, President, GUFIC Domestic Formulations, India and Nepal, do invite you for today's webinar. Now, the participant doctors are from different cities of the country and also from Nepal. Those who are attending our webinar for uh, number of times, just I wanted to remind you that exactly 1 year back, the COVID-19 has attacked our country and the entire world, and 1 year has passed. And this 1 year is a very, very, very sufficient time to get the experience of COVID-19. And as a very responsible pharmaceutical company, we have conducted half a dozen webinars along with the case studies with COVID-19 and the role of thymosin alpha in COVID-19 cases. We have already shared our experiences with CTRI trial 2 conducted and submitted already to the Government of India. DCGI approval is pending from Government of India because we have continued 6 centers for DCGI trial. And as there is no definite therapy for COVID and no anti-COVID drug which has been established, so you have now very less weapon in your hand. Vaccines have limitations. Remdesivir again have some limitations, and now the non-availability is a big issue. Immunomodulation is one of the alternate therapy which augments the therapy of COVID-19 management. And as you know, as a pioneer in this country, GUFIC Bioscience Limited has already tried to nearly 1 lakh patients in last 1 year time, and 1,000 key opinion leaders and key business leaders have endorsed this molecule. And moreover, 10,000 patients data we have captured last 1 year time, because in July 2020 we have launched this product. Because of its mode of action, that is, it works on innate immunity, adaptive immunity, also have some virucidal action, and its action on beta cell and T cell. Immunosin alpha 1 is being established as one of the major tool or therapy to strengthen the hand of the doctor. In this entire process, again, COVID-19 2.0 wave has come, and the entire country is now suffering with more than 2 lakhs patients every day. We at GUFIC, as a very responsible pharmaceutical company, we wanted to address with our series of webinar interactions with our KOLs, KBLs, and we wanted to spread the message how to tackle this pandemic with the help of different medications, thymosin alpha and other therapies. Today, in this webinar, I am very happy to inform you. Today we have two of our very, very, very legend, you can see in the critical care doctors with us. Dr. Yatin Mehta, who is the chairman, Medanta Institute of Critical Care and Anesthesia, Vedantam, the Medicity, Gurgaon. He is our speaker today. He will be talking on thymosin alpha 1, contemporary approach for immunomodulation in COVID-19. Along with Dr. Yatin Mehta, today we have with us Dr. Prachi Sathe, who is our panelist come our faculty. Dr. Prachi Sathe is known to all of us. She is the director of Department of Critical Care Medicine, Ruby Hall Clinic, Pune. Dr. Prachi Sathe is the first full-time ICU physician intensivist in Pune. I know Dr. Sathe last 15 years, probably I have seen from those days. And founder member and ex-vice president of Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine, contributed to many national and international conference. Executive member of Critical Care Education Foundation and ex-president for College of Critical Care Medicine. Her major interest areas are septicemia, ICU ventilation, quality control and ICU audit, etc. And she has a lot of publications nationally and internationally. While talking to Dr. Yatin Mehta, I cannot actually talk because it is a 10-page CV. Lots of achievements are there with Dr. Yatin Mehta, honors and award, presidential citation in the year 2015, Jaipur by Annual Conference of India, ICCM, presidential citation in ICCM in Agra 2016, Best Doctor Critical Care declared in 1st February 2020 by Indian Medical Tourism Summit 2020, presidential citation again February 2020, Hyderabad for outstanding contribution in ICCM. Publications, doctor is having more than 307 publications, citations more than nearer to 2000 citations, many national and international publications. And today we also have in our panelist Dr. Navneet Wadhwa as our external panelist, who is the coordinator in the panel discussion also, and Dr. Adarsh Shetty, who is our medical advisor of Gufic Bioscience Limited. So I welcome all our panelists and speakers. I also welcome all the doctors from across the country and Nepal who are listening our webinar, and it is simultaneously, there is a streaming in YouTube also happening in live. So over to Dr. Navneet for the rest of the program. Dr. Navneet, please.
Thank you, Dr. Debesh. Before I hand over to Dr. Yatin Mehta, it's my pleasure to highlight, the consistent scientific legacy, what's always in making. So this is what the literature reflects, his contribution to the science consistently. This is just a reflection of last 1 decade. So he's ranked one of the highest researcher, and for sure as a leading light from our country, which has put the scientific perspective, especially in the critical care, on the highest possible level. So not just a clinician, but a thinker, contributing and leading the path in the research as well. With this, I would like to hand over to Dr. Yatin Mehta to take over the proceedings. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Navneet, for the kind introduction, and Dr. Das. Pleasure to be here, and thank you, Gufic, for organizing this. Indeed, a pleasure to be here. So, may I have the first slide, please? See, all of us are hit pretty hard with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we all are struggling. I was just talking to my colleagues, Dr. Sate, before all this, we started this program. So today, in the next half an hour or so, I'm going to talk about immunomodulation, how we can affect the outcome and management in the COVID-19 situation. Next one, please. Bring you greetings from Medanta, the outskirts of Delhi, where I work. At the moment, we have 260 COVID patients. And by tomorrow, I think we are going to open one more ICU. So it's will be about 300. Next one, please. So as we all know, every TV channel is full of what is happening and how healthcare is completely swamped by what is happening. So we must do everything in a capability to try to attenuate the onslaught. Next one, please. So I think the T cells, CD4 and CD8, play an important role. This was a paper in UK convalescent individuals. In not only the recovery, but maybe affecting the morbidity also, they're not effective T cell response in these patients. And initially, we know that it's about 14 days of incubation period. The first 7 days is the viremic phase, and the second week will be probably a cytokine response once the disease progresses. Next one. And this was a paper in which they measured, actually, each bar shows the T cell response, and you can see how variable it is. So people with good T cell response may have a different response compared to people with minimal T cell response. The outcome may be different. Next one. So it is important to understand the role of what your own immunity plays in this. Um, so if the initial viral load is high, maybe the T cell response will be very strong. Maybe the a person has poorer innate immunity. So it is important to understand their role and how the T cells respond comes to the viral attack on your body. Next one. In this paper, you can see that on the top graph is a mild COVID-19 disease, and the CD4 levels and CD8 levels are elevated after the initial viremic phase, as you can see in the blue phase, which is the resolution phase. But the levels are not that high because it's a mild disease. The viral load is less. In the second phase, the red curve is the viral load. You can see how much higher the viral load is. There's the acute phase of the illness. And in the recovery phase, you can see that the much higher CD4 and CD8 levels are maintained, and the B cell immunity, the antibody response is also much better in the patients with a more severe disease. So that is the third phase, which is a long-term memory. If the response is very down, then obviously the immunity is not good enough. The patient may have secondary sepsis. Next one. So, I mean, some individuals may have a head start. I mean, they already have been exposed to the virus in the past from some other maybe same family coronavirus family infections. So they may have a stronger T cell response to the first onslaught of the virus. And the re-exposure, I mean, they may have a strong response and they will probably have a subclinical infection. That's what we are worried about, that the people who do not have obvious infection, how they respond to it, and they may spread the disease because they may not be too sick. And that's where the vaccine modalities also come into play. Some people with not adequate antibody response to the vaccination may have a good T cell response. Next one, please. Yeah, in this diagram, you can see the SARS virus attacks, and there's a monocytes and macrophages are affected. And then the interferons also play a role, and too much of interferon also may be detrimental. The K cells may play, the natural killer cells may play an active role, and there may be apoptosis of the cells, or the T cell response may be good. In the later stages, it may be T cell exhaustion. So reduced T cell activity, reduced cytotoxic activity, and the late phase may be detrimental to the patient. In the early phase, on the left side, you can see that the neutrophils and the activated macrophages, they release the pro-inflammatory cytokines, interleukin-1, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and this also may partly contribute to the thrombosis which you see in multiple organs of these patients. And that's why acute inflammatory markers like ferritin and LDH and CRP and interleukin-6 are elevated in these patients in the acute phase. Next one. Yeah, so as I talked initially, the innate immunity of the patient. So there may be a cytokine storm where it is neutrophilia. As I said, all the acute phase reactants are elevated, interleukin-6, TNF-alpha are elevated. There may be reduced antiviral cytotoxicity because of reduced activity, on the other hand, of natural killer cells. Then there may be coagulopathic response, which you see in these COVID patients quite commonly, where D dimers are elevated, platelets are elevated, but maybe later on in some cases may be reduced. Then the adaptive immunity comes into play, and there may be T cell exhaustion and reduced humoral response if there is the T cell response is not adequate, and that may lead to lymphopenia, and T cell lymphocytes are down, and B cells are also down. Next one, please. And this was a review article which we wrote, Cytokine Storm in Novel COVID-19 Expert Considerations in the Indian Journal of Critical Care Medicine. And this discusses the role of cytokine storm in these patients. Next one, please. Again, this is explaining the same thing, how the different therapies come into play. Initially, about first week or so, you can see there's a pro-inflammatory cytokines, there's a surge response, and there's a peaking of the pro-inflammatory cytokines, where it is excessive cytokine response may lead to multi-organ failure and death. Later on, after about 10 to 14 days, and maybe later, the T cell exhaustion may come into play, where there's immunosuppression, and this may lead to secondary sepsis, and again, patient may have a multi-organ failure and death. And this is where the role of different modalities come into play at different timings of the illness. Next one. Now, these are the different modalities available in COVID-19 management, which are modulating the inflammatory response. So quickly coming through, the IL-6 receptor blocker like tocilizumab is being used extensively the moment there is shortage in India. Now, toci is an IL-6 blocker, but by and large, including our own paper of multi-center study of toci in moderate to severe illness, the primary endpoints were not met. Although subgroup analysis in a smaller number of patients, this was published in Lancet Respiratory Medicine, that there was some evidence that it was of benefit in severe cases, but again, it was statistically not very significant. Then you have convalescent plasma. Some of the politicians are harping about it, but again, ICMR study itself. Now, this is recommended for mild to moderate illness in the early stages. The convalescent plasma itself should have adequate antibodies, and the patient should not have enough antibodies. So this is not really tested at most of the times. And again, ICMR study multi-center study was negative, so did not show any mortality benefit in convalescent plasma. Then you intravenous immunoglobulins. They also they can provide some passive immunity. There are some observational studies, but again, the evidence is equivocal and anecdotal. Then you have thymosin alpha 1. I'll come to that a bit later. But several studies are there, including there are some randomized a few studies which have shown benefit of thymosin alpha in this situation. Steroids are the proven only modality which is a proven mortality benefit, as shown in various studies, including the recovery trial. So all of us are giving steroids in these patients, in the hospitalized patients. And interferons also have been used, but again, the studies are scarce and the evidence is a little on the weaker side. Next one, please. Next one. Okay. Again, this diagrammatically, this explains how the virus attacks to the ACE2 receptors. It initially replicates, and that is where the cytokines are released from the activated neutrophils and macrophages. If they're excessive, there's a excessive cytokine storm, which itself can kill the patient. And then later on, antibodies are produced, T cells come into play, and that is where the other modalities come into play. And you can see the antibodies, the green wire color shaped ones, will block the further replication of the virus. Next one, please. So the possible therapeutic targets have been discussed. Virus-induced lymphocyte disruption and sequestration in the lung lesions, inflammatory cytokines are released. Yeah, that's better. Then non-neutralizing antibodies actually may harm the patient because they will not neutralize the virus. And then there is immunocompromise. Tocilizumab, I've already talked about. IL-6, it blocks. IVIG, thymosin alpha and corticosteroids could alleviate deleterious inflammatory reaction of the body. And on top of that, thymosin alpha 1 could also prompt T cell production. Next one, please. Okay. So as I talked about the immunomodulation and imbalanced immune responses in COVID-19. So as I said, the inflammatory markers are elevated in most of these patients in the second week. And they will also tell you which way the patient is heading. So exploring a balance between anti-inflammatory and pro-inflammatory cytokines um, may benefit the patient. Next one. So you need to protect the organs from excessive inflammatory damage. And tailored immunotherapy may play a significant part. Um, in the very early stage of COVID-19, the application of antiviral agents are recommended. This may reduce the viral load and subsequent inflammatory response. Next one, please. So this is a polypeptide, which is endogenous, although this is a monoclonal antibody. Otherwise, it is derived from the thymus, and it has been used in multiple other debilitating diseases, particularly autoimmune diseases. It enhances the production of T cells and reduces the anti-inflammatory. It increases the anti-inflammatory cytokines, particularly IL-10. It does reduce pro-inflammatory cytokines, IL-1, IL-6, and TNF-alpha. It attenuates the lymphopenia, and it has been shown of therapeutic benefits. Next one, please. So sufficient capability to eradicate a viral invasion. It does reduce the viral load also. It restores the T cell numbers, which are necessary for viral clearance, and again, reducing the interferon gamma and TNF alpha in the deleterious inflammatory cascade. So it's a promising option in COVID-19 as an adjuvant therapy. Next one. So this was a review of literature in World Journal of Virology. Next one, please. And this summarizes how effective or which are the disease entities where this may be of benefit. Some disease entities is already approved by FDA and DCGI: hepatitis B, hepatitis C, malignant melanoma, severe psoriasis, as a vaccine adjuvant, to prevent attenuate oxidative damage. It also has been used in pancreatic disease, immunodeficient diseases, lung cancer, and so on. Next one. So what does it do? Well, it is TLR2 agonist and TLR9 agonist. It decreases the viral replication. It decreases interleukin 1, 6, and TNF alpha. It can be tumor cell modulator. It increases the CD4 and CD8 counts, and it increases the anti-inflammatory cytokines. Next one, please. Yeah, so again, this is a reviewing most of the therapies, which are immunomodulating therapies. Baricitinib is being used by some people. It's a JAK inhibitor, but again, it's been approved for rheumatoid arthritis and COVID-19 as an emergency use. Thymosin alpha, again, it's used as an experimental drug, but yes, it is effective. It's already established, as I said, for hepatitis B, C, and other types of cancers. Activated protein C, also there are some studies on. Interferon gamma and interferon beta have also been used as immunomodulators for certain malignancies and inflammatory situations, and convalescent plasma I already talked about. Next one, please. And these are the studies which are already registered, ongoing studies of thymosin alpha. Next one. And this is a study, again, this is a study in cancer patients. Next one. So it's a pro-thymos study, prospective, multi-center, open label, in the startup phase, ongoing study in cancer patients. Next one, please. Okay, again, reviewing what we said, the stage 1 of the COVID-19, thymosin alpha can modify the natural killer cell activity. It increases the T cell count and T cell effectivity, and it also stimulates the dendritic cells, which play an important, all three play an important role in immunomodulation. And in stage 2, it will reduce the hyperinflammation, which can be detrimental to the patients. Next one, please. So if you compare it with the COVID-19, it is quite comparable to severe sepsis. Actually, the immune response is also similar, increased cytokine levels initially and maybe depressed cytokine levels later on, and followed by T cell exhaustion and decreased activity of natural key cells, natural killer cells, and apoptosis also enhanced in the later stages. Next one, please. Again, this looks a little complicated, but it's quite simple. Where all, let's see, if thymosin alpha can be effective. Well, it stimulates the precursor cells. So B cells are stimulated, the T cells are stimulated, both CD4 and CD8, which are helper cells. And it also stimulates the dendritic cells. Also, viral replication is reduced initially, and antibody production can also be enhanced by the plasma cells. So all of this can have, and the NK cells effectively kills the viruses which are increasing in the initial replication phase. Next one, please. There are many, many studies from different parts of the world. As you can see, T cell activity in cancer cells, it restores, reduces the mortality of severe COVID-19 with lymphocytopenia, and it reverses the exhaustion of T cells. It has also been used in nephrotic syndrome, and it also has antioxidant properties. Next one, please. So US FDA has approved this for hepatitis B, hepatitis C, malignant melanomas, HCC, and DeGorge syndrome. Next one, please. So as I said, it increases the T cell numbers. It supports T cell maturation and differentiation and reduces the cell apoptosis. Next one. So this was a study, 36 patients in treatment group and 40 non-treatment group. They were demographically comparable, the two, and all the patients had antiviral and standard of care, and all of them had oxygen therapy and steroids. Next one. So almost comparable numbers. So what they have found, enhancement of T cell counts in the patients who received. Next one, please. Thymosin alpha. And usually 3 times reduction in mortality in the treatment group compared to the control group. So this is a very significant study. Next one, please. Also, they found not only increased survival, but also patients requiring in non-invasive ventilation as well as mechanical ventilation were hugely reduced in patients who were treated with thymosin alpha. Next one. Okay, CD4 counts and CD8 counts both increased in the patients, and this change was more dramatic in patients who already had reduced CD4 and CD8 counts. You can see on the left side, the curve is more acute. So the rate of increase is much better in patients who already depleted of CD4 and CD8 cells. Next one. So as I said, it reduces the mortality. IL-6 was also reduced. Mechanical and non-invasive ventilation was also reduced. None of the patients in thymosin alpha was intubated. Treatment mortality I already talked about, 3 times reduced mortality. Next one, please. So significantly reduced mortality, more marked in patients who already had depleted CD4 and CD8 counts, reverses the T cell exhaustion, and improves recovery from SARS-CoV-2 infection. Next one, please. And these are some other published reports on thymosin alpha. It reduces senescence, increases the T cell activation. It has been used in ARDS. So multiple variants of COVID-19, it has been used successfully. Next one, please. Again, there's several other papers which have shown how effective the immunomodulation is and how it helps in COVID-19. It restores the lymphopenia. it reduces the inflammatory cytokines and increases the anti-inflammatory cytokines. Next one, please. So, thymosin alpha treatment, the capacity to improve and restore T cell count in COVID-19 with severe lymphocytopenia. It can reverse T cell exhaustion, and it collectively contributes to the reduction in mortality. Next one, please. So there is no effective, actually, if you look at it, most of the drugs are still experimental in COVID-19, and immunomodulation has been recommended, with some other modalities also. So this may play a significant role, and it's a very safe immunomodulator. Next one, please. So considering its anti-inflammatory and antiviral properties, we believe that thymosin alpha deserves further investigations in COVID-19 ARDS. Next one, please. It has been, again, as I said, recommended as an adjuvant, especially among elderly immunocompromised patients. And it also has been shown to improve the immunogenicity of the influenza vaccine. Next one. Now, these are some Indian studies. Now, this was a paper from Rahul Pandit's group in Fortis Mulund. And what did they find? This was a president of the European Congress of Internal Medicine. So they had 15 consecutive patients who received thymosin alpha. The blue one is thymosin alpha, and the red one is a control. So significantly, the first top shows significantly improved lymphocyte count, significantly improved CD4 count, significantly improved CD8 counts, and significantly improved PF ratio, with significant reduction in D dimers, CRP, ferritin, and IL-6. So pro-inflammatory markers or acute phase reactants were all significantly reduced, and patients was also clinically better. Next one, please. And this was a paper from Ahmedabad. Early initiation, this was a series of case reports. Patients with comorbidities, they use thymosin alpha effectively. Next one. And again, this was an annual conference of critical care, which we had. This is from Somaiya Medical College of Mumbai. And again, this was a case series of 4 patients. Next one, please. There's significant improvement in the patient's conditions in all the cases. Next one, please. So thymosin alpha is for injection, subcutaneous injections for about a week. You give it every day. Next one, please. So summarizing, COVID-19 is characterized by different stages from the viremic phase to the cytokine storm. The first phase is probably allowed by immune suppression, and the second phase is often characterized by paradoxical axis of immune activation with subsequent cytokine release syndrome or cytokine storm as we know it. Thymosin alpha is an immune modulating agent, drug with pleiotropic properties. It might have the ability to positively modulate the immune response in the viremic phase of COVID-19, avoiding progression into the cytokine storm. Next one, please. So I thank you for your attention, and end of the thing, I'll be happy to answer questions along with my other panelists.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful deliberation. Before we start off the panel discussion, I'll just like to welcome Dr. Prachi Sathe as well, and just quickly focus on the protocol of one of the ongoing studies, phase 3 studies, what ma'am is doing. Dr. Sathe is the pioneer as far as the western part of the country, as far as critical care is concerned. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. And she has been the first full-time ICU physician intensivist at Pune, and also she is the founder member and ex-vice president of Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine, and she has several publications to her credit, and not just the publication, but also an innovative eyesight in terms of a foresight in terms of bringing up newer innovations to Pune in a setup. These are some of the reflections, some of the interesting publications across the country where she have contributed to the consistently to the evidence-based perspectives, not just into the pre-COVID era critical care, but also with respect to interesting perspectives in COVID era. So this is one of the trial which is on at our hospital, which is a phase 3 trial, a double-blind multicentric trial evaluating thymosin alpha 1 as an add-on treatment to the existing standard of care, and it's registered at CTRI. This looks into the moderate to severe COVID patient. Classically, typically, the way it has been defined is being included as far as inclusion criteria is concerned: respiratory rate more than 24 breaths per minute, SpO2 90 to 94 on room air for the criteria for moderate COVID patients, and for severe COVID patients, less than 90% SpO2, and whenever the patient requires mechanical ventilations or presents with respiratory failure has been the criteria for a severe COVID scenario. So there are around 120 patients which are being enrolled, and the varied dosage, we will discuss this in much detail during the panel discussion. So the dosage varies slightly with as far as the moderate to severe symptoms are concerned, and classical biomarkers. So whatever is being done from a phase 2 trial is being replicated at a much higher level as far as Indian evidences are concerned. So the typical way of evaluating the blood samples for the classical biochemical parameters, what we know, are all being evaluated, right from TLC, CD4, CD8 count being more precise as far as immunological markers are concerned, ferritin levels, IL-6, LDS, CRP, D dimers. So just a perspective, this is right now what is happening in US. A lot of demand as far as patient population are concerned. To that extent, this is, I would call, a movement, to beyond just the scientific perspective, that a thought process, that what they say, that there is an urgent need to exist to fill the gaps in the immunity left by those unwilling or medically unable to get vaccinated against COVID-19. To that extent, a therapeutic modulation being closely compared, that the patients who could not or unwilling to get vaccinated. So here comes another option as well, not just with respect to the treatment of COVID, but a primary kind of a preventive perspective. These are all emerging thoughts. So this is just a trigger for the discussion. And welcome, a very warm welcome to ma'am, and over to the panelists to take the discussion forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for showing the trial which is ongoing at the moment. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Yatin Mehta for that exhaustive discussion and review of literature currently available for thymosin alpha. We were happy that the wave is going down, and we were really wondering whether we will be able to enroll the patients in this particular trial. And it is so unfortunate that the second wave has started, and there are so many more patients, and the mortality also has increased. And that is why perhaps we are able to enroll more patients, and it will give us some important data to look at how this is working, because it's going to be a double-blind trial where we have enrolled till now like 6 or 7 patients from moderate to severe and severe category of COVID-19 patients. There are lots of repurposed drugs which have been utilized because we still don't understand this disease completely. It goes through various phases, and ultimately at the end of first week, there is very likelihood of cytokine storm that goes on. And that is where we still cannot predict which patient is going to go which way, and we have to keep on monitoring them. And this is a subgroup which is likely to go into severe cytokine storm because of aberrant excessive dysregulated immune response. The patient is likely to develop poor outcomes. Going back to sepsis 3 definitions, in definition itself, now it says, all of us are very much aware of that by definition, sepsis is life-threatening organ dysfunction in response to infection which happens because of dysregulated immunity. So dysregulated immunity is common to many diseases, not only bacterial sepsis, but also COVID manifests in that fashion and causes mortality because of that. While going through the literature, it was very interesting to read the discussion about ProThymos study, in which it says that in cancer patients, they have used combination of thymosin alpha along with vaccine to improve the immune response. We know there is immunosenescence. Every patient does not respond with same vigor to the vaccine because of very frail patients who don't have good, robust immune response. So thymosin alpha has got lots of different or multifaceted molecule, as we could say, and it is as good as in severe or on the verge of severe COVID. It is as good at the level of prevention as well. There are certain studies, one or two I came across, was thymosin along with a small dose of corticosteroids can be even a better immunomodulator. And as we know that we are using corticosteroids in small doses in most of the patients who are going towards cytokine storm. Even it can have prophylactic use in cancer patients to prevent the infection by itself. Sepsis is always like a story of 7 blind men and an elephant. So immunomodulatory therapies which were shown in a particular study, which was presented by Dr. Mehta, it tries to modulate immunity at various steps and various stages. But immunomodulation by thymosin alpha can be much more because it can improve the T lymphocyte function, which has got depleted because of the onslaught of COVID. When we are talking about immunomodulatory effects, we always have to know or remember in our mind that immunomodulation is always a double-edged sword. On one side, we try to modulate it, thinking that it will reduce the onslaught of dysregulated immunity. But at the same time, we have to remember that if it can take away the adequate immune response, it can cause further damage. Also, one more unanswered question is there, that what exactly is the timing of giving immunosin alpha or thymosin alpha? And probably there have to be more analysis and more data coming in. And probably through this double-blind trial, it may come in. So it is really very good experience to participate in this particular trial. But other than this trial, we have used immunosin alpha in some of the severe or moderately severe patients of COVID-19 knowingly, because it is a commercially available drug. And in certain subgroup of patients, we could see the difference in whom we thought that a patient is unlikely to come out. So with that, now I would hand it over to Dr. Wadhwa again to open it for question, answers, and discussion. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you, ma'am, for your thought provocation. There are a couple of questions which have started coming up. The first one is which refers to the Indian evidences, because I think that's the need of the hour as well. So, what's your take on the Indian evidences? Maybe Dr. Yatin Mehta, sir, you can start off on that perspective.
No, see that paper by Rahul Pandit's group they had 15 patients. They had no controls group. So unlike Dr. Sate's study, which is a more stronger study, blinded and double-blinded and with a control arm. So I'm sure we'll see something this thing. But Rahul Pandit's study also was positive. I mean, because if you look at if you take control as a 0 time levels of all the inflammatory markers and it had improved. All the inflammatory markers had improved and oxidation indices had improved. So it was a good indicator. But yes, we required some more robust studies.
We can take that as a proof of concept or pilot study, and then that is how we have further planned double-blind study.
Right.
Specifically, another question which pertains to the utilization of thymosin alpha, especially with respect to mild to moderate COVID cases, because we have seen the first literature coming through the Chinese studies as far as severe COVID is concerned. So maybe the experience or the evidence, the bridge between those as far as mild to moderate, where it will fit in well, the thymosin alpha.
You, Dr. Mehta, yeah. Can I just
I
stop
see,
you?
I would think that initially it will be a good idea to use it in mild to moderate, not to use it in the severe cases, because the mortality is high once the patient is on a ventilator and his PF ratios are very low. So it may be, I don't know whether it will be effective or not, but it's always a good idea first to establish the utility in mild to moderate and then extend the usage. In my
I would support that because in severe illness, there is already irreversible damage which has taken place to the end organs. And to reverse that is a big thing. And it is not at all possible, just by immunomodulation, the damage which has already taken place. So I think I would also agree that it has to be in earlier stages before the cytokine storm has its end organ damage effects set in.
I don't know whether to call it as a postulation or maybe a probable reality. Early intervention with respect to mild to moderate cases, could it also reduce maybe the ICU care burden or the hospitalization burden per se? Just a thought, will it be helpful
Yeah,
in that regard?
exactly. Because if on one side we are talking about a preventive aspect of this, use along with vaccines to improve immunity. So why not? If it is done at earlier stages, it will definitely reduce the burden on the hospitals. In hypothesis, I would agree with you in this.
In fact, ma'am, in one of the study which we have done with Dr. Om Srivastav, which was done in moderate study, which is about to be published, in that study, which was done in 20 patients, 10 plus 10, which has shown around 5 days reduction with the control arm hospitalization, and even significant improvements in the lab parameters also. That study is
Right,
also completed, which was done in Kasturba Hospital, Mumbai.
right. Now that is very, very interesting. And in current pandemic onslaught, that would make a lot of difference.
Sir, any experiences, specifically the markers which have been used in the severe scenario is the CD4 and CD8. How difficult or how simple it is to pick that up from a reality setting? That may be looks very phenomenally good as far as the evidence in the control environment is concerned. But how feasible is CD4, CD8 count in the reality? And if not, or if yes, uh, how do we assess the improvement implications of this?
Dr. Adarsh, you must have done that, no, at that time
Yes,
during the study.
yes. Usually, what CD4 and CD8 is not the normal investigations. People will tend to do it. Usually, the NLR ratio people will do it. But we got the improvement of CD4 and CD8 ratio compared to the control arm in both the trials. Man. Even the NLR ratio, which was very high, which was decreased after giving thymosin alpha in the moderate patients.
But having said that, it won't be too difficult to check CD4, CD8 counts because most of the standard labs are equipped with it in checking CD4, CD8 counts.
Yes, ma'am. But thing is, people will always go for biomarkers are there, and they go for this lymphocyte and neutrophil ratio.
Yeah, but if particularly we are going to look at it as an intervention, effect of intervention, then we might as well do it. These days, it has become a standard thing, COVID panel, and then the biomarkers are sent. So maybe if you are using this particular molecule, we can use CD4, CD8. Somebody has asked here, what is the site of injection? So since it is a subcutaneous injection, it can be used on abdominal wall, like all subcutaneous injections, for example, low molecular weight heparin. So proximal limbs or abdominal wall are good sites. And the dose is like 1.6 is the strength of one ampule. And we are supposed to use the recommended doses in moderate disease, it is 2 ampoules twice a day, and in severe 3 ampoules thrice a day. Sorry, 2 ampoules thrice a day. Sorry, my mistake.
That is 6
Yeah.
injections per day.
Sorry.
Ma'am, few more questions. I think Dr. Adarsh can also intervene in this. Is thymosin alpha, truly speaking, a preventive or a curative intervention? And which day is indicated and the cost of medication with side effects, if any, if so, and with hepatotoxicities studies.
Yes, coming to the safety, I think the drug was started in 1979. So drug has around 40 years, 4 decades of safety profile. Even if you touch the PubMed studies, if you put the thymosin alpha, you will get around 2000 published articles. So it has been used in many, many lakhs of patients. Till now, the side effects are not that much, apart from the injection related side effects, I think, which is with all injection site reactions. Apart from that, even the drug is safe in renally impaired and hepatically impaired patients. Even in the drug is used in dialysis patient also. So it's completely safe in hepatic and liver, unlike other drugs. Yes, Dr. Baba. Any other?
Yes. Ma'am, I think this is another element, not just the efficacy, the safety also being evaluated at your trial, which is ongoing. That will also
Yes.
throw more light into, pertinently with the Indian COVID scenario, especially with
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah, actually, what my experience is, when we are using this in the trial patients, we are supposed to report SAEs, but most of the SAEs are falling in category of worsening of disease. Probably that is a placebo drug, I don't know. But other than that, we have not experienced any side effects.
And I think, confounding variables are very difficult to delineate on the background that we are still understanding the evolving spectrum of COVID. So perhaps it even becomes more difficult, at least.
Yes,
That,
yes, that is true. That is true. But
uh,
it is basically a natural molecule. It is a manufactured peptide in thymus gland, which
hmm,
is artificially created. It is chemically created. That is one of the two things. One of the uh, uh, reassuring things. It was one
yes.
very nice postulate which when I was reading the literature, I came across that they are saying that since in children COVID does not manifest too badly,
Mhm.
and in children, thymus is very active. That is one
Mhm.
of the postulates why we are trying to use this particular molecule in adults where thymus is not functioning too well physiologically.
That was the basis for one of the prophylactic study, man, which was done in
Yeah,
other country where they use this concept and they give prophylactically this drug, and they found that even the healthcare workers took this drug
yeah.
for 4 weeks, and it was found that all the healthcare workers were means pulmonary component at that time. RT-PCR was not there. They checked
Yeah.
the X-ray and they found that none of them had pneumonia.
So that's very interesting concept. I thought that maybe another study that can be planned.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe the third wave and the fourth wave doesn't come up. Hopefully, ma'am.
True, true.
And the update on the phase 3 trial, I just want to give. So right now we have completed 70 patients. In a week, in a 2 weeks or so, we'll be submitting it to the DCGI as an interim analysis after blinding is removed. Since it's a double blind, only after the completion of the interim data, we can remove the blind. Then only the results can be analyzed and it will be submitted to the DCGI.
Okay, so total 70 out of 120 have been enrolled.
120
Huh?
has been enrolled.
Okay, okay. So intention to treat is 120.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another interesting question is, along with the vaccine, what is the role of antibodies? Will it increase the antibodies and boost the immune system? I think the need of the hour.
I don't think it is going to give antibodies as such.
Correct.
Antibodies will be generated basically by either spike protein, or during infection it will be
Yeah.
given by nucleocapsid antigen.
Yes, ma'am.
So we don't know. That it means it is a good idea. Maybe we can study the levels of antibodies generated in patients with and without thymosin.
Yes,
Yes.
in fact, in one of the study, because thymosin alpha acts in the Th2, that is T cell helper cell 2, which is one of the component for the generation of antibodies. Man. In which the study was done, where it was found that thymosin alpha increases the antibody production. How far it is
Increase.
true?
Okay.
Because the Th2 is one of the component which causes the antibodies.
Okay.
Because there is a link between T cell and the B cell, which the crosstalk happens. This thymosin alpha increases the Th2. So there was a hypothesis that it can increase the antibody production. The
That's
clinically
very
also it's
interesting.
beneficial. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So that is how it says, along with vaccine, if you take it, then there may be a boost. Yeah.
Another interesting, I mean, I would put this as a comment from Dr. Apurva Borwa. He says that he has used in moderate to severe disease with very good promising results. Only limitation is that there is no IV formulation available. Maybe a futuristic thought, a function of pharmacokinetic. I don't know whether it is feasible, not feasible, but a good thought process in that regard. Maybe in a direction with respect to managing severe cases at an urgent basis, perhaps.
Right.
The drug is used IV also, but it's not an approved route. It was used in one study in the US where the IV formulation was used as a continuous infusion. But right now the approved route is on the subcutaneous.
If it is given IV, I think the half-life will be very, very short.
Yes, ma'am, definitely.
Probably.
The T-half of this thymosin is 2 hours now. If it is given IV, I think if it directly enters the blood, definitely half-life will be more. Less.
This also reminds me, ma'am, from an interesting perspective, which talks about a publication as an intranasal formulation, which has been very well effectively used for as a prophylactic in the healthcare workers, and especially in the very, very early phase of the pandemic in the Chinese. The question was that why, the medical healthcare workers are not implicated with COVID while managing those patients, when there was no much concept of even PP kits and etc. So this has been found very useful. So there are some varied evidences as far as the different formulations and perspectives are concerned in that regard.
Right. So all in all, it's quite an interesting molecule, that is for sure.
Think we can look from a different perspective. I think one of the one common concern we get is how to reconstitute this formulation. So there is a very interesting video which has been prepared. So with your due permission, ma'am, we can have a look at that.
Yeah, sure.
And
it would be useful.
Yeah, if any more questions keep coming, there are in the meanwhile we will keep addressing that as well. So in the meanwhile, we can have a look at the video actually. Over to, yeah.
Is there sound to this? You can't
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
it.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the sound is low. Well, I can explain you, ma'am. You have to use a vial to just mark on the neck, and then you can use a disposable syringe, a syringe which is used. You can take that and just open up the syringe and piston. And then with the other end of the syringe, you can just put it onto the neck and just snap it off. This is the most easiest way to open the ampule.
Very
Most
interesting.
easiest way.
Yes.
So this is how you can open up the water for injection ampule of Immunosin Alpha.
Yeah.
And then you can simultaneously pick it up into the new disposable syringe and take it into the syringe, ma'am. There is another video which will be the subsequent video which will be playing how the Immunosin Alpha can be reconstituted and administered. So in Immunosin Alpha pack, if you see, there are 2 vials of Immunosin Alpha along with 2 ampules for water for injection. So as we said earlier, you have to snap it off the ampule to take 1 ml of the water for injection. And the same 1 ml you have to add it into the vial. You just have to take it into the syringe and then put it across into the vial for reconstitution. Once reconstituted, then you can administer with the 31 gauge needle, which is also said to be an insulin needle. You can take it into that needle, which is a very fine needle. You can take the entire content of the vial into the needle, into the syringe. And since the needle is fine, so it might take a little bit of time for the entire content to come into the syringe, a little bit while. So this is how basically the entire content of the vial can be taken up into the syringe, which is basically an insulin syringe.
Yeah.
Once the entire content is taken from the vial, then you can administer it subcutaneously, just closer to the umbilical, near the umbilicus, navel basically. This can also be administered on the thigh, as you rightly said, ma'am.
Yeah.
And since the needle gauge is very fine, it will be hardly there will be any pain. But certain patients, probably there could be some injection site reaction, but otherwise it is absolutely painless. So this is how it has to be administered with an angle. After the injection, there is no need of any rubbing or anything. Just press it a bit and then you're done. This is how very easily immunosin alpha can be reconstituted and administered, ma'am.
Right. That's interesting.
Ma'am, while we were having this video, there is an interesting perspective which has come from Dr. N. Venkateshwara Rao from Chennai. He asked that according to WHO guidelines, there is no CD4 and CD8 count, as far as recommendation. Perhaps, from an evidence-based point of view, yes, literature, from an evidence, yes. What is the cost of the medicine and how many days? Basically, there are two components. One is the CD4 and the CD8 count. We have already partially addressed it. And I think Dr. Adarsh can also address this. What is the cost of the medication and how many days we have to follow it as far as preventive is concerned and curative is concerned?
The cost of the medicine, one injection comes under 2,000 rupees as MRP, 1.6 mg. Along with that, we'll get all the other things. That is the cost of the medication. Coming to the dosing for the moderate cases, the study which was conducted in the CTRI trials and the phase 3 trial is 2 injections BD. That is 4 injections per day. Duration is 7 days. Coming to the severe category is a 2 injections TID. That is 6 injections per day for 7 days. And the prophylactic study which was done in the outer part of India, which was given weekly twice, followed it for 4 weeks. That is the 8 injections.
Sorry. What was the indication here you said?
For the which one? Prophylactic. You are talking about prophylactic now?
Prophylaxis. Okay.
Yeah. The study which was conducted is on 3,000 healthcare workers. Where it was given weekly twice.
Okay.
For 4 weeks.
Okay.
And it was followed up for 1 month. And it was controlled with the literature control. It was not the prospective control. It was the literature control which was controlled. Where it was found that the 2,300 were positive in the literature. And none of the 2,900 healthcare workers which was given this medication, obviously the doctors were using PPE kits and all. There may be a confounding factor. But still, none of the doctors got the pneumonia. Since RT-PCR was not there at that time, it was chest X-ray was done. None of them had pneumonia.
Okay.
I think this has been a wonderful discussion. I just got the message. Dr. Yatin Mehta has some technical problem from a Wi-Fi perspective. So this is the reality. We cannot live with technology and we cannot live without as well. But nonetheless, I would call these meetings as a really green meetings. We are preventing, the carbon footprint of the world,
Yes.
without, and saving lots of time, cost, effort, energy, but yet in a participative mode, contributing to the evolution of science in that direction. And despite your not just a busy schedule, be it Dr. Yatin Mehta or Dr. Prachi Sathe, it's a very tough schedule as well. And hats off to your commitments to the efforts to create scientific legacy by participating in such meetings, which delivers a lot of value to everyone throughout, as a cross-sharing platform in so many other dimensions as well. So I think we are done with the discussion, with the wonderful thought process, and towards the contributing at least something towards the path of innovation. And we'll look forward for future interactions as well. It will be our proud moment once these studies, phase 3 trials, get published from an Indian spectrum, and ma'am is already taking a lead in that perspective. Thank you very much, ma'am, for
Thank
the
you.
interesting deliberation. And with this, I'd like to hand over to Samrat, the marketing head at Gufic, to take the proceedings forward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Navneet. And I will just share the screen now. I'm Samrat Loth. For the audience, I am the GM Marketing of Gufic Criticare. And this webinar session was sponsored in technical collaboration with Gufic Biosciences Limited. And the session sponsor was by was Immunicin Alpha, which modulates immunity perfectly. We are the first brand of Thymosin Alpha 1 in India, and in fact, in India, we are the innovator of this molecule. And thank you all for attending this webinar. And with this, I will be handing over the session to our Assistant Vice President, Mr. Shekhar Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Samrat. Good evening to all. Regards from Gufic Criticare. I am Shekhar Ali, heading Gufic Critical Care in India and Nepal. Thanks to all delegates for joining with us from your busy schedule. We are thankful to Honorable Speaker Dr. Yatin Mehta Sir, Chairman, Department of Critical Care, Medanta, the Medicity, Gurgaon, Delhi, who has been kind enough to spare his valuable time for sharing his knowledge and experience on Thymosin Alpha 1, a contemporary approach for immunomodulation in COVID-19 patients. Also, we are thankful to Honorable Panelist Dr. Prachi Sathe Madam, Director of ICU Ruby Hall Clinic, Pune, for giving her valuable time and sharing her knowledge and experience on Thymosin Alpha 1 in COVID-19 patients. We are thankful to Dr. Adarsh Sethi and Dr. Navneet for coordinating with the speakers and making this scientific program very, very interactive. From very beginning, Gufic Biosciences have taken initiatives not only to manufacture the noble molecule Thymosin Alpha 1, but also to update the medical fraternity through webinars, case studies, and multi-centric trials, investigator initiative trials, poster presentation, etc. Within 10 months of launch, we have completed 6 webinars to major investigative initiative trials. Multiple case presentations were presented by eminent intensivists through webinars from across the country regarding the role of Thymosin Alpha 1 and its benefits in COVID-19 patients. 4 e-posters were presented by eminent intensivists and investigators at Criticare 21 virtual conference of ISCCM. 2 international e-posters were presented by eminent intensivists at American Society of Tropical Medicine and Health, and another at European Congress of Internal Medicine. So far, more than 4 lakh vials of Immunicin Alpha have been used, treating more than 10,000 patients successfully. We are thankful to all doctors who have passed the benefit of Immunicin Alpha to COVID-19 patients for the speedy recovery. We are thankful to all doctors having trust on Gufic's world-class quality unit lyophilized products for saving the life of millions. Thanks once again for joining with us. Good night to all. Thank you.